Hello guys, it's Unders. We are back in on our A to Z through plugins. If these videos are helpful for you, please pop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out massively in creating more content for you guys. So today we are up to H, and I've done something a little bit sneaky, and we're going to go and take H comp. Now strictly what Waves are saying this is a hybrid compressor. They say it's a hybrid compressor. It's a combination of their SSL 4000 bus comp and the channel combination compressors on there, as well as the API and the V series. The V series being based on Neve consoles. Now it's got a couple of slightly unique things about it that make it really quite useful in terms of mixing, especially if you're newer or learning compression. It has a feature on it that's absolutely brilliant that we're going to have a look at. So if we just go over it real quick, firstly we've got this analog knob here. Now this goes between 4 different analog modes, or off, ratio, standard for compressor. Punch is something you don't normally see on a compressor. And what punch does is allow you to have a very fast attack time, but then you can still dial in some transient shaping and allow the really fast transients to still come through. Threshold is then fairly standard. We've also got an output, so we can gain correct that way. And then we've got a mix, which allows for very simple parallel compression without setting up any chains. We can just drag this mix knob down to 50, for example, which would give us parallel compression. Across the top here, we've got some different meter options as well as a limiter. Purpose for the limiter: when you're using the punch and you've boosted the signal, it will allow those transients to still be flying through and not getting caught by the compressor, so it stops anything there going past 0 dB, especially if you've allowed some output gain. Now the release, this is the thing I described as being very useful if you're perhaps newer to compression. The release has its control systems that can be linked to the host tempo. So I'll just show you exactly what that means. We can go BPM and set a BPM, for example. So I'm working in 174. I could set the BPM to anything I liked, but equally I could have 87, which is halftime, which would give me some halftime measurements on that release setting. Now that's really good for percussion and heavily timed elements, rhythmic elements, because you can have the release behave perfectly in between those intervals. If you choose host, it'll automatically take the host BPM, and then we can have milliseconds, which is going to be your normal release time, which you can normally work out or vary depending on how you want the sound to be. But having BPM and host are really great for getting good rhythmic release times when perhaps you're not so used to compression, or you haven't got to the point yet where you can work it out and you understand how to create those divisions in milliseconds. So let's have a little listen to the compressor. I've got it set up on the drum bus here, so I'm just going to mute the compressor, hit play, solo the drums so you can hear what we're actually working on. Okay. And I've just dialed in a rough bit of compression here just to show what we can do with the punch and bits like that, and then we're going to just flick through the analog settings. You can hear the differences there. The analog settings sort of go from 1 being the most subtle to 4, which is pretty gnarly. Cool, so that's engaged. Now here I'm just going to take the punch knob from 0 back up to roughly where it is, and you should just be able to hear those transients start escaping through. So it's pretty squashed. Starting to get through. And that really allows it to breathe and feels a little bit more natural. You see that I've got the release set on host and then to divisions of 132, so it's releasing between the hi-hats effectively. So whenever there's not a direct impact, something that would cause the compressor to trigger, you'll see that release dropping down pretty rapidly. And we could change that so it's much longer. Put it on 16s, for example. I find that's holding on the hi-hats too long there. So if we bring that back down to 32s. Cool, so now we're just going to flick through the analog modes and I'll just A/B these, so turn the plugin off for a moment so we can hear a real difference. Here 3 and 4 they're really quite gnarly. On 3 it really starts affecting the snare, it sounds quite distorted. And 4 just absolutely rips the whole signal. So they can be useful effects, but in this particular case I've got the sound I want for the drums, I'll just be leaving that on off. Now what's also useful, you've got your mix knob here, so if we wanted to parallel compress the drums, we can quite simply click on 50, that's going to be parallel compression, but we can dial in whatever we like from there. That's less of the compressed sound, or much more, or all the compressed sound, or nothing at all. What can be quite a nice effect is if you go from completely dry and then when you say go into the drop or something like that, you use the complete wet, so you just go from that really dry, loose, heavy transient to compressed solid sound and just bringing that in there. That is pretty much it, guys. It is a compressor with a few other gnarly little settings going on you can change around, have a mess around with. Well worth having a look at. I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I shall see you on the next one. If you have any requests for the A to Z series, do give me a shout and I will definitely have a look at the plugins and mixing options that you give me and see if there's something that I want to incorporate into this. See you next time, guys. Bye.